For decades, the people of Israel and Gaza have been trapped in a cycle of violence, terror, and destruction. This is a story of war, fear, and the unspeakable trauma that affects millions. But it's not just a political struggle, it's a human one, with scars that will last for generations. To understand the present-day conflict, we must go back, way back, to the early 20th century. In the wake of World War I, Britain took control of Palestine under a mandate from the League of Nations, setting the stage for a long and bitter conflict. Tensions between Jews and Arabs grew as waves of Jewish immigration increased. The horrors of the Holocaust further intensified the demand for a Jewish homeland. In 1948, the State of Israel was declared, leading to the First Arab-Israeli War. Hundreds of thousands of Palestinians were displaced, creating the refugee crisis that still haunts the region today. This displacement, coupled with the establishment of Israel, would become the core of Palestinian grievances. For Israelis, it was the fulfillment of a long-held dream. For Palestinians, it was the start of decades of pain and loss. In 1987, as the first Intifada, Palestinian uprising, shook the Israeli occupation, a new player entered the scene: Hamas. Founded as an offshoot of the Muslim Brotherhood, Hamas combined Islamist ideology with nationalist resistance, vowing to fight Israeli occupation by any means necessary.
Hamas represents a radical response to decades of occupation and perceived failure by the Palestinian Authority to achieve any meaningful results for their people. Their methods, suicide bombings, rocket attacks, have made them both feared and popular in certain circles. For many Palestinians, Hamas was a symbol of resistance, but for Israelis, they were terrorists.
Hamas gained control of Gaza in 2007, following a bloody civil war with the more moderate Fatah faction. Since then, the tiny strip of land has been a hotbed of violence, with Hamas frequently launching rocket attacks into Israel and Israel responding with airstrikes and military incursions. For the 2 million people living in Gaza, life under Hamas and Israeli bombardment is a nightmare. Gaza is one of the most densely populated places on Earth, and for civilians caught in the crossfire, there is no escape. The Israeli blockade, imposed to weaken Hamas, has created a humanitarian crisis. The United Nations has called Gaza unlivable, with nearly half of its population unemployed and over 80% relying on humanitarian aid. Children in particular are affected by the trauma of war. Many have never known peace, and growing up under the constant threat of bombs and rockets leaves deep psychological scars.
In Arabic with subtitles. We don't have any hope. We can't leave, we can't live. Every time the sirens go off, we know bombs are coming. The children wake up screaming at night. They've lost their childhoods.
While life in Gaza is one of siege, life in southern Israel is one of constant fear. Hamas and other militant groups have launched thousands of rockets from Gaza into Israel, indiscriminately targeting civilians.
Every time I hear the sirens, my heart stops. We have just seconds to get to safety. We live in fear, but we have no choice but to go on with our lives. Israel's Iron Dome system has been a lifesaver for many, intercepting thousands of rockets mid-air. But the psychological toll of living under constant threat of attack is profound. Children in particular suffer from PTSD, anxiety, and panic attacks. For many Israelis, living with this threat has become a way of life.
The scars of war run deep, both in the body and the mind. Psychologists working in Gaza and Israel have reported skyrocketing rates of PTSD, depression, and anxiety, especially among children who have known nothing but conflict. The trauma from the constant state of war affects not only the present, but will leave a legacy of psychological damage for generations.
We see children who have been through unimaginable horrors. In Gaza, some children have lost multiple family members to airstrikes. In Israel, children wake up terrified from the sound of rockets. These experiences shape their entire worldview, and many will never fully recover.
Behind every bomb, every rocket, are international players pulling the strings. The United States has long been a close ally of Israel, providing billions in military aid. Meanwhile, countries like Iran and Qatar fund and support Hamas. The conflict has become a proxy war for larger regional and global powers, making peace even more elusive.
The international community is deeply divided over the Israel-Palestine conflict. With powerful nations backing both sides, this has created an almost unbreakable deadlock in achieving any meaningful progress. The victims, of course, are the civilians who are caught in the middle.
Despite the violence, there are those on both sides who refuse to give up on peace. Activists, NGOs, and civilians have been working tirelessly to foster dialogue and mutual understanding, even in the most dangerous circumstances.
We've lived through so much pain, but I still believe that peace is possible. It's difficult, and many people think we're naive, but without hope, we have nothing.
This war is not just about politics or land, it's about people. People who have been wounded physically, emotionally, and psychologically. While the path to peace is uncertain, what is clear is the need for understanding, empathy, and a recognition of the shared humanity on both sides. Only through this understanding can we hope to break the cycle of trauma and terror. Like, share, and subscribe to stay informed and support the call for peace.